Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Charles Hamaker, here with you. As we're in the month of July, we are officially in the month of July. Summer is already officially gone underway. And with that, coming into effect, we've had some consistent weather, so I'll be quieter about that, I promise. Excuse me. I'll be quieter about that. We got more consistent weather. We use the word consistently a lot here, at least when it comes to the team that's up first. But no, I mean, the Mariners are underway, the Storm are underway, the Sounders continue their season, the Rain are continuing their season, the Kraken are in their off season, but are in some capacity back in a way. The Seawolves have sadly ended their season. So we'll get into all of that, of course, but we begin with our Seattle Mariners, who are continuing. They just wrapped up their last homestand of the season before the All-Star break that they're going to be hosting. So we'll get into that here, beginning with a 3-game set against the Washington Nationals. Now, the Nationals are in the basement of the NL East. They're just kind of a struggle right now. The Mariners were able to take care of business in Game 1, an 8-4 win. Our player of the game, shortstop J.P. Crawford, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 RBI, and 2 walks on the day. Our photo of the game here by Brian Saldana, catchers Jared Kelenic at second base. After stealing second, being called out upon the immediate call before Scott Service and the Mariners challenging that and having it overturned. And Country Roads is playing all night long because that is now Jared Kelenic's walk-up song, and the in-stadium sound people basically play that song anytime that Jared Kelenic does something good. We go to Game 2 of this series as the Mariners try to take the series win, are able to do so, losing 4-7 in 11 innings. This one just frustrating as a whole, that the Mariners even had to go to 11 innings here. And then failing to really answer in the 10th or the 9th, and then being able to, as continuing that, not being able to do anything in the 11th inning. Our player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez. Teo, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs, and 1 walk to get a 2-run homer in the bottom of the first to get things going. After the 8-4 win the night before, it was like, okay, maybe we can get some momentum generated here and move that into a serious win. That wouldn't be the case. And so that would set up the rubber match on Wednesday, looking to salvage that and win the series. The Mariners would be unable to do so with a horrible offensive showing, only 1 run, with that coming late. A 1-4 loss against the Nationals to lose that series. Our player of the game, second baseman Jose Caballero, 2 hits, 1 run. With summer being around, the bugs are around too. Goodness. 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 RBI. While it was frustrating for the Mariners, Nationals catcher Keibert Ruiz was thrown out at home, and you can see here some arguments at home plate because of him being thrown out at home. It was ruled that Ruiz had stepped out of the base path and there was this out, which makes a ton of sense. And so the Nationals manager would get thrown out, but it wouldn't really end up mattering, as captured here by Brian Saldana. So the Mariners get a day off in between those games, and you're hoping, okay, hey, you lost a series to the Nationals, which is really not great in any means necessary. But, you've really got to be able to pick things up and turn things around before the Rays series. And very interestingly enough, the day of the series opener, which you can see the score for May 30th there on your screen, prior to the game, there were no players visible whatsoever in the clubhouse. It was a ghost town. It was all the coaching staff were all there and around. The Mariners were having a players-only meeting. Now, Uh, it didn't really turn out too well, at least in the immediate form, as the Mariners would lose that game 4-15. That was just such a frustrating loss. We're not going to get into a player of the game for that. We'll instead put up this photo of the game captured by Brian Saldana. This was a game. I mean, this was a close game going into the eighth inning. It was a 4-4 game. The Mariners had actually gotten out and gotten ahead of the Rays before the Rays started to chip away over the course of the game. And then an 8-run eighth inning for Tampa Bay really blew the roof off of things and was really, really frustrating to see in so many different iterations. And surely angered a bunch of people. I mean, at least it was very frustrating in the meantime, especially knowing that that players only meeting had taken place just hours before it, and then just to have that horrible effort, get blown up. It was really horrible. It was bad. It was bad. The vibes were not good. But then we get to game 2 of the series, and you're wondering how the Mariners were going to be able to respond, and they win that game in game 2, 8-3. A nice and strong performance. Didn't really start out too hot offensively. Were able to get going before a late surge helped them push away. And an excellent game from George Kirby. Our photo of the game, though, is our player of the game number 1. This photo here by Matthew Bermudez. Excuse me. All this talking to make my throat sore. First player of the game, shortstop JP Crawford. JP, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and a walk. Our second player of the game, starting pitcher George Kirby. Kirby, 7 innings, which is excellent length for a starter. 2 hits allowed, 2 runs against, both of them being earned, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts on the day to set up the rubber match in game 3. So we get to that one. And this game was another one. This one was different than those first 2 games where the team would, they both start slow and then they kind of hang out around with each other before one of the other teams really is able to pull away. July 2nd in the rubber match versus the Rays to close out that homestand was a 7-6 win. Our player of the game, catcher Tom Murphy, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 1 walk, including a solo homer. He reached base all 3 of the times that he stepped up to the plate. This was a game where the Rays actually got on the board first. They had solo homers in the first and second off of Luis Castillo before a 4-run fourth inning put them ahead 5-1 going into the bottom of the third. That one being a Eugenio Suarez solo homer. The Mariners were able to score 4 runs of their own in the bottom of the third, and the Mariners bullpen shut down the Rays after Castillo kind of locked in. And the Mariners were able to play patient, play smart, get good at bats, not swing at horrible pitches, resulting in a bases loaded situation in the 7th where Jose Caballero was hit by the first pitch that he saw, as you can see here in this photo, as he's putting his gear down. And the Mariners would be able to win that game by a run to take the series against now the second best team in baseball. Before the Braves won that day, the Rays had the most wins. It would shortly become the Braves during this game, actually. So our player of the week in this photo here by Lay of Lions is JP. 7 games, last 7 games, a 280 batting average, 455 on base percentage, 600 slugging, 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 homers over the course of those 7 games, 5 ribbies, and 8 walks on the day. I did find it a little funny that my player of the week was somebody that I had previously called out last week, trying to hope to see more from some of those players. So this homestand is very, very bizarre to kind of look at and to quantify, right? Because you lose a series against the Nationals, who are one of the worst teams, at least wins wise in baseball. And so to lose that series against them at home in the fashion that you did, having having the poor hitting performances continue where you just don't look competitive at the plate, especially in that series finale, in that rubber match. You did not look competitive at the plate whatsoever against the Nationals. And then you're like, okay, here come the Rays into town, the most complete team in baseball, arguably. You could argue with the Braves, yeah. At the time, the most wins in all of MLB. It's worrisome. It's troublesome, right? Because you're like, well, how is this going to go? What am I going to do? Oh no. And then they're able to have that. They're able to overcome that terrible, terrible series opener, and and get a series win against the Rays, which in those last two games, he showed some good, solid offense, some patient plate appearances. The bullpen looks good again. That was just bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't know how to quantify it. I can't honestly tell you if it means that they're going to turn things around, but it's a very, very good start to have those, patient plate appearances, to take what's given to you by the opposing pitcher, to really put the pressure on the pitcher and not to have it so much on yourself. I know that's something that Scott Service and the team has talked about over the course of this homestand. So it was just very interesting to see the way that this homestand played out. Um, and it's hard to quantify it. It's going to be critical here over the course of this next road trip to see where this team is at, to see what they're going to do at the trade deadline, if they can do anything at the trade deadline, if they are going to be a team that is going to reasonably be able to look at the playoffs and expect to try and fight for that over the course of the next few months. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if this new trade acquisition will help with that, as today, early this morning, the Mariners acquired left-handed pitcher Zach Muckenhern from the Mets. Muckenhern was DFA'd by the Mets last night. He's 28. He'll report to AAA Tacoma. He was DFA'd by the Mets last night, as I mentioned. He's a lefty. He's made 3 appearances with the Mets. Has not recorded a win or loss. Has a 6 ERA, 4 earned runs over the course of 6 innings pitched, 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. He made his MLB debut on May 3rd of this year, throwing an inning and 2/3 scoreless against the Tigers. He's a Minnesota native, was selected by the Orioles in the 11th round of the 2016 MLB first year player draft. He has appeared in parts of 7 different minor league seasons, so he really hasn't been up here at the major league level. Going 22-22 with the 3.59 ERA, 162 earned runs over 405 innings pitched, 405 and 2/3 innings pitched. I apologize. So yeah, I don't really know what to make out of Muckenhern. I've seen some Twitter reactions, which you take that with a grain of salt. I've seen some Twitter reactions where Mets fans thought he looked good. I don't know again what to take from that really. Trying to see what we can find out what his pitches are. But you look at the return there on your screen. Chris Flexen, who had been DFA'd over the course of this past homestand, was sent over in that trade. The Mets will pay half of his salary for the year. This is $4 million. And excuse me, 600,000 of what Trevor Gott would have been paid. Flexen over the course of this past year, 42 innings pitched, a 7.71 ERA, an 0-4 record, and 29 Ks on the year. Trevor Gott, both of these guys righties from the Mariners, by the way, 29 innings pitched, a 4.03 ERA, an 0-3 record, and 32 strikeouts. He had actually just been recalled from the injured list by the Mariners. I mean, I'm trying to look here and see what he's got pitch type from Muckenhern. Oh, that's not going to help. Okay. With what to make of this trade, I mean, Gott really had not been playing too well over the course. I mean, his start of the season was great. His start of the season was great. A bunch of the newer guys from the bullpen looked really good. Him and Gabe Spire. I'm not saying that Spire doesn't look good necessarily recently, but prefacing it, right? We look here to Trevor Gott. From the 31st of March to the 30th of April, he had 14 innings pitched, a 2.57 ERA, a 2.43 FIP, a 271 opposing batting average, 4 earned runs against, 16 hits, 2 walks, 12 Ks. Pretty good numbers. Pretty good numbers from a guy that you essentially took a flyer on, right? And then Gott from May 2nd until June 30th, 15 innings pitched, so one more inning, a 5.4 ERA, a 3.55 FIP, a 283 opposing batting average, 9 earned runs against, which doubles his last from that earlier split, 17 hits against, 6 walks, and 20 strikeouts. So didn't necessarily get better. It'll be interesting though, yeah, to see if he's sort of, I don't know. It doesn't look, he wasn't exactly great over that course of the stretch there. Still trying to find Muckenhern information. I apologize. Let's see. Oh my god. Well, It's very interesting when he's not on. Oh, oops, I spelled it wrong. There we go. Okay, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see the Mariners add a third lefty to the bullpen as well, to get that in there. Let's see if we can get anything on you. Fastball, changeup, slider. Okay, pretty typical. Throws that fastball 65% of the time, and then mainly changeup with 24% of the time. That slider comes out only 10% of the time there. Um, hmm, not bad. I mean, I don't know. I not too much to say on Muckenhern. I apologize, kind of dragging that out. But yeah, it was probably you get Flexen here, who was already DFA'd. They're able to send him back to the Mets, who had been in his career previously, and his sort of just a decent contract. And then you throw in Gott here, who I don't imagine the Mariners were too, you know, dying to hold on to get a guy that obviously someone in that front office saw a something. They saw something that they liked. So I'm very intrigued to see what it is that they like about Muckenhern, and if he's able to show enough in AAA Tacoma to really show a bunch and get called up with a big league crew. So we'll see about that. We'll see what if there's any fallout from that, what the dominoes might be in place here from Jerry DePoto and Justin Hollander. But that trade was made this morning as the Mariners are headed out on their road trip. So speaking of that road trip, the Mariners are at a 40-win, 42-loss record at the current moment. Looking ahead, they have a 3-game set down by the Bay, 3 games against the Giants. July 3rd at the Giants tonight is a 6:45 p.m. start. July 4th at the Giants is a 1:35 p.m. start. And then July 5th at the Giants is a 6:05 p.m. start to round out that series and finish out against a Giants team that is looking pretty solid. They're playing former Mariner Mitch Haniger down there, so we'll be very interested to see how that series against the Giants goes. And if that series against the Rays was any indicator of what's going to go on over the course of the rest of the season for the Mariners. They're going to face a tough test, another tough test to continue this road trip and to close out the regular season before the All-Star break when they head to Houston for a 4-game set. Yes, a 4-game set against the Houston Astros, July 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th against Houston. The 6th and 7th are both 5:10 starts, and then July 8th is a 4:15 start. And then July 9th to close that out on Sunday is an 11:10 a.m. start. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It's going to be a big weekend. It's going to be a very big weekend to see all that take place. No, yeah, that's right. Okay. Anyway, um, we wrap up the Mariners segment of the show, and we will head over to the Storm, who I know last week my talk of it was the growing pains for the Storm and trying to deal with the ups and downs because there were ups and downs. You could argue that there were ups in this one, yes, over this course of this past week, but the way that they're losing these games, I'm sure, is more frustrating than anything else for the Storm right now. So we look at the course of the past week. June 27th at the Minnesota Lynx was a 93-104 loss. Our play of the game guard Jewel Lloyd, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. Tough one there. I mean, the Lynx haven't necessarily been a great team in the WNBA this year, but Nafisha Collier has been playing out of her mind. And the Storm have been failing to find consistency scoring the basketball in general over the course of this year. Whether that be the few players that have looked consistent, not always being that, or just not getting enough from their bench and so and so. So they go into Minnesota and lose that one. Then both teams come back to Seattle to play a second game. And the Storm lose that one in overtime, 97-99, despite our player of the game, Jewel Lloyd, in this photo by Sage Sipeto, with a 41-point game, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. It's a career high in points for Lloyd, 1 point away from that double-double there. Really tough. Jewel had a great overtime and a great fourth quarter. Just up and down the board, really just not enough from the rest of the Seattle attack. And they lose that one to Minnesota. And you don't want to see mistakes compound, but they start to compound especially in this loss to the Liberty here, a 66-81 loss. The Storm start out poorly. The deficit goes as high as 22. The Storm make a little bit of a push in the third and fourth quarter, but it's ultimately not enough to get them within striking distance. They never get into single digits in that second half. I played the game, guard Jewel Lloyd, 27 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. We get to our photo of the game here by Matthew Bermudez. Another one. I mentioned at the head of it when I talked about this Liberty game, the mistakes compounding, and they really did. A lot of the same issues that Seattle been dealing with: points in the paint, rebounding. I think they actually won one of those two or second chance points. And I was kind of surprised to see that, but they turned the ball over a ton, which is something that they were doing better upon in the last week. Um, Seattle has been one of the top 3, I'd argue mainly more top 2 teams in all of the WNBA when it comes to fast break points, and the Liberty beat them to that. So it was not only the mistakes that the Storm had already been making, but they made other ones that were uncharacteristic of this team so far this year as well. So that was just overall a really tough loss to see that sort of, you could argue, regression. From the Storm team. So we look at our player of the week. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Not to say that other players didn't have solid weeks. Ezzy Magbagor has been playing excellent all year and had a double-double. I believe it was in that overtime loss to the Lynx. But I mean, it's just Jewel Lloyd is Jewel Lloyd, and we all have to recognize the sort of incredible play that she's got. 20 over the past 3 games, she's averaging 29.3 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, 1 steal per game, and 1 block per game. Over those games against both Minnesota games and then against the Liberty. So yeah, I mean, kind of speaks for itself. Kind of talks, I talked about the compounding of the mistakes. Um, it's some things aren't being fixed when we've got the failure of the issues on the boards. uh the turnovers had been good and are now not doing so good. um you're still looking for consistency scoring the basketball. You could argue in that game against the Liberty that they weren't distributing the basketball well enough. Even in those games, I believe it was the game in the overtime against Minnesota, they weren't distributing the ball enough. The ball movement wasn't good enough. So it's those are now leaking into, hey, we're trying to fix these things, and then you look and there's another hole like just out of reach and you can't plug it. So it's just becoming too much to handle at this point, and I'm intrigued to see. I was listening into the press conference against the Liberty there, and they talked about it, kind of, I guess the players talked about accountability within each other. So um with the Mariners segment, they talked about a players only meeting. You wonder, the coaches can only do so much. If a lesson isn't being digested and then put into action by a player, it doesn't really matter, right? So it'll be very interesting to see the after a loss like this Liberty game, after a stretch like this, and with some of the news that's got coming up here, um, what sort of change we'll see from the Storm. And how immediate that might be put into action, or maybe it just isn't. Um, hmm, maybe it isn't something that makes an effect. Maybe they're stuck in a loop here. So it'll be very intriguing to me. I'm sorry, I don't want to get that all. Wanted to make sure that came across correct. So we move over here to some news. Center Ezzy Magbagor was named as an All-Star reserve for this year's All-Star roster. She'll join Jewel Lloyd in heading to that, in Las Vegas here from July 14th through 15th. It's her first All-Star appearance. She's one of 12 reserves for the WNBA All-Star game in Las Vegas, as voted by league coaches and announced on by the league. She's having a career year, which is great to see after the sort of improvement and progress that we saw from Ezzy last year. 15.1 points per game, 8.6 rebounds per game, 2 blocks, 1.9 assists, and 1.4 steals per game while shooting 50.9% from the field. She's she scored in double figures in 13 of 15 games this season. Wow, including and we've talked about Ezzy over the course of the year. She's easily been Seattle's second scoring option. Where did I lose it? Okay. Including each of the last 7, recording 6 double-doubles and shooting 50% or better from the field in 10 games. Magbagor had 16 points and 16 rebounds in her last outing, a career high in rebounds and becoming just the 4th Storm player. I believe this was this was after the overtime loss to the Lynx, I believe. To post those numbers are better in a double-double. She scored 20 points on a Tuesday in Minnesota, her 3rd game with 20-plus points already this season after collecting 4 total over the last 3 seasons combined. So Ezzy more than deserved for that all-star nod. And then this big one that had been speculated but not officially confirmed, the Storm have brought back forward Gabby Williams. Williams is back after all that stuff in the beginning of the year where it's like, will she, won't she? Why do we care? So that was announced officially this morning. Actually, the Storm announced that 2022 WNBA All Defensive Second Team pick Gabby Williams has re-signed with the team on a rest of the season contract. Per team policy, terms of the deal were not discussed. She will join the team on the upcoming East Coast road trip and wear her number 5, as you can see in the photo. She made a big splash in 2022, flashing a lot of potential, a lot of athletic potential. Tried to gain footing on her offensive potential to something that was growing with her over the course of the year. And we already knew about the defense, but it was the offensive potential that we wanted to see. She started all 36 games for the Storm in 2022, averaging 7.5 points, 5 rebounds, 3.1 assists, and 1.5 steal per game, while connecting on a career best 44% from the field. So you can kind of get a bit of it there for Gabby. Those 7.5 points isn't the biggest, but the rebounds as well is a big thing. She finished as one of the best lockdown defenders in the league, ranked 8th in steals, 11th in defensive win shares, and 13th in defensive rating. She also finished 5th among qualifiers in steal percentage at 2.6%, with the team's defensive rating dropping nearly 2 points per 100 possessions when not on the court, the second largest change on the Storm. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, yeah, that's mainly on Gabby. But no, I mean, I talk about it with the offensive potential. Last year with the Storm, they did need that. They needed a third scorer. There was Stewie, there was Jewel, and it's like, okay, who's the third player going to be? At times it was Tina Charles. At times Ezzy Magbagor was able to help out with that, but Gabby really showed some great potential here and there in doing so, and being able to be that player who did that for Seattle. So it was very intriguing to wonder if this was going to become reality at some point this season or maybe next season. To see this now is kind of interesting to me. But the rebounds and the defensive effort are going to be big things that Williams will be able to help the Storm out with in the immediate time. I don't think, obviously, you are looking for that. You are looking for more scoring and more consistent scoring. I'm not saying that Gabby just being on the team will automatically help that. It probably should, but seeing her develop that will be big. But in the immediate, like in the now is how I want to put it. Williams will be able to help defensively and on the boards in a big way. So that's fun, and it's great to have Gabby back. So the Storm sit at a 4-12 record on the season. They are 11th in the league. 5th in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, their next game is on July 6th at the Connecticut Sun at 4:00 Pacific time. That will be broadcast on Amazon Prime Video and Fox 13. And then a rematch with the New York Liberty, this time in New York for the first time, with an 11:00 start on July 8th. That game will be on ESPN. So big national TV broadcast, as Gabby Williams will be getting back into it there, playing against Connecticut and New York. It's safe to say that Gabby can really help out with that. I'm excited to see her. I'm interested to see if she's jumped immediately into the starting lineup, if she starts out on the bench. It's just great to have Gabby back. So we move over here. We go into our Sounders here. We have happy news. We have happy news with the Sounders here. Obviously, well, I'll talk about it, but we have happy news. We have happy news with the Sounders. In their past match, they hosted the Houston Dynamo, who I don't believe the Sounders have lost to at home ever. Knock on wood. In case I have to come back to this later on in the season, or some other time. July 1st versus the Houston Dynamo, and 1-0 win. Our player of the match, midfielder Albert Rusnak. Rusnak, an 8.0 match rating, 1 goal, 3 shots, a 95% passing percentage from the midfield, and 1 chance created. An excellent game by Albert. I just wonder why people hate him so much. It's probably because he was such a highly touted free agent signing, but man, I really don't understand the hate for the guy. And we'll go over to our photo of the match here by Liv Lyons. This was just a very interesting um interesting match. I mean, the Sounders were barely the better attacking team after the halftime whistle had blown. They really hadn't generated much, but neither had Houston. And then in about the 50, I believe it was the 54th minute, Cody Baker got a yellow card. Things started to get feisty. They might have been a little bit feisty before that, but that's when we started to see the cards. And then in a span of a minute, arguably less than a minute, I think it was like 50 seconds. You can see here, Houston's Michael was issued 2 quick yellows and sent off to put the Houston Dynamo with 10 men. And then just 5 minutes later, some great combination play from Leo Chu to Nico Ladero, back to Chu, finds Rusnak in the middle of the box, who slots it home. And the sort of celebration and the relief and sort of the joy on the players' faces after that goal had been scored kind of tells you the way that they had been feeling about this scoring drought and their struggles as of late over the past few months. When Rusnak scored that goal, the Sounders had a goal drought at home of 405 minutes, and they hadn't won a match since May 27th here in Seattle against New York Red Bulls. So, it has to feel great. It really does. It has to feel great. I know that head coach Brian Schmetzer said in the post game that they need to be better, and you could argue that. I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But happy with it. Happy with it, right? The Sounders record their 11th clean sheet of the season, 9th at home, through 21 games on the season so far. So the defensive effort continues to remain. You just hope you can do more on the offensive end so that the pressure isn't on the back line, Stephen Fry, to have to go out there and have to record a clean sheet every time. I mean, that would be really cool. I don't think it's realistic. It would be really cool. I don't think it's realistic again, but it would be really cool. So no, it's very interesting to see. Like with the Mariners and that series against the Rays, is this going to be a sort of launch point for the Sounders going forward for them to be able to find more offense, to get more going on? I know that they're without Jordan Morris and Alex Roldan, and Christian Roldan, oopsie, right now due to international duty with the Gold Cup taking place. But this Sounders lineup without those players is more than capable of winning games. I'm not saying that they're going to beat everybody in MLS, but they're more than capable of winning games. So it shouldn't be used as a crutch or an excuse when those players are out. When you get them, then that's a different story as to why they're not scoring goals, right? But we saw that at the end, right before those players got called into the national team. Christian Roldan had a goal and an assist in that game against Charlotte. The defensive play in that game wasn't great, and then with that game becoming a draw. But I don't know. I think the tools are there, and it's just about making sure that they're being used properly. And after a match like this, you hope that it's kind of like a blueprint. It's like, hey, this is, get back to what you were doing earlier in the season. And again, the talent level is there. That's never been an excuse here this year. So anyway, we move on here. The Sounders sit at a 9 win, 7 loss, 5 draw record. They have 32 points on the season, which is good for third in the Western Conference. They do sit at 8th still in all of the league for Commissioner's Cup. Oopsie. Oh gosh, I've already forgotten. Oops. Oh, did I already forget? Wow, I'm getting old, guys. Maybe I. Oh my. Supporter shield. Yikes. I apologize. Too many shields and cups and things. It's like a cabinet. um, their next match, the Sounders will look to win their first Cascadia match of the year after losing already to the Whitecaps and to the Portland Timbers. July 8th at the Whitecaps is a 7:30 p.m. start. That's on Saturday. I mean, this is you'd like regardless of where even when I look at here the MLS standings, I look at where Vancouver is. You'd like to get your first win in Cascadia this season because it's embarrassing that you don't have one already. And two, you'd like to continue to establish dominance over little brother. Vancouver is just barely over the playoff line at a 6-6-7 record. Um, so yeah, you'd like to handle that. You'd like to handle that against little brother. I mean, if we look here at their past 5 matches and their form as of recently, I don't think it's been great. 2 wins over the course of the past. They've only lost once over the course of the past 5 matches, and that was their last match, a 3-0 shelling against Sporting KC. Yeah, they lost games to Montreal. They drew with Cincinnati. They beat LAFC. Wow. So maybe that's a very confusing past 5 matches. But regardless, we'll continue on and we'll move over here to our Kraken, who went through its busy time in Kraken land. As we move over here, they had the NHL draft over the course of the past week, as well as free agency beginning. That's still underway. I don't believe that anything has happened over the time that we've been recording. We'll make sure, just because you never know when we're recording. Things happen before. Russell Wilson got traded while we were recording, so you always want to make sure. Nothing right now. But so the draft was on June 28th and 29th. The Kraken selection in round 1, they go with Edward Shala. I know it looks like the word sale, like we're not having a sale at TJ Maxx or Kmart or Sears, just to help with some of our older viewers there. Shala, Edward Shala. 20th overall pick, a left winger, a much lower pick than the last 2 selections that the Kraken have had in the first round, being 2 and 4. Shala is a key part of Czech Republic's silver medal finish at this past year's World Juniors. Round 2, the team with the 50th overall pick went with left winger Carson Rekoff, the 29th ranked North American skating prospect in the draft. 52nd overall was centerman Oscar Fisker Molgard, the 18th ranked European skater. 57th overall, D-man Lucas Dragasevich out of the Tri-City Americans in the WHL, the 18th ranked North American skating prospect. We go over here to round 3. So they stay in the WHL in the 84th overall pick, defenseman Caden Price. Price played with the Kelowna Rockets of the WHL. We saw him here when the team played the Thunderbirds, our Thunderbirds. Round 4, 116th overall, Andre Loshko, a centerman. We keep a lot of centermen. Round 5, we go with I believe it's in the entry draft. I believe it's the first Silvertip or Thunderbird that the Kraken have selected. It's defenseman Caden Hamill, who is, as I mentioned, a Silvertip. We go over here to round 6 and 7. 168th overall, the only goalie that the Kraken selected, Visa Vedenpa. As I mentioned, the only goalie selected by the Kraken in the draft. 180th overall, centerman Zeb Forsfjall. And then round 7, who you can see pictured on your screen. I believe it's the first African-American player that the Kraken have, well, not African, the first player of color that the Kraken have selected. The 220th overall pick, right winger Zachariah Wisdom, who is already a fan favorite in multiple ways, whether that be his fun name or the Kraken adding a player of color to their prospect pool as well. So we will go over those picks more so in a CSS draft recap here in the next few days. We don't want to cram all of that into your screen right now. We'll continue on here and keep moving with NHL free agency. On the 30th, the team sort of kicked things off here, signing goaltender Joey Decord to a 2-year, $1.2 million deal to bring him back. I know there was some speculation of where Joey would go if he'd come back to Seattle, um, or after playing the large majority of the season with the Coachella Valley Firebirds, if he'd look somewhere else around the NHL for a starting chance. He stays in Seattle. It'll be interesting to see what that means for the backup goalie situation behind Philip Grubauer, whether that's Chris Drieger or Joey Decord. So we'll see about that. On the 1st, there's a bunch of stuff going on July 1st. They kind of came rapid fire. The team signed defenseman Jimmy Schultz to a 1-year, 2-way deal at $775,000. He did spend the season with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. There was apparently interest around the NHL for Schultz, but he stays with the Kraken organization. Continuing with it, the team signed excuse me, forward Marian Studenek to a 1-year, 2-way deal at $775,000. Studenek tallied a career high 48 points with 21 goals and 27 assists and 67 regular season games during this past year with the Texas Stars, which is the AHL affiliate of the Dallas Stars. Keeping with it and bringing back guys that Kraken are familiar with. The team signed forward John Hayden to a 1-year, 2-way, $775,000 deal. He did have a brief period of time spent with the Kraken up at the NHL level, but largely spent time with the Firebirds. And after an injury suffered with the Kraken, I believe it was in January or February, Hayden was able to return for the playoff run that the Firebirds had. Keeping along here with the July 1st news to wrap it up, the team signed defenseman Brian Dumoulin to a 2-year contract at 3.15 million AAV. Dumoulin, 31. He tallied 25 points, 1 goal, and 24 assists through 82 regular season games for the Pittsburgh Penguins this past year, setting career highs in assists and points. He also did set a career best with 23 even strength points, which ranked second among Pittsburgh Blue Liners. So sort of a veteran presence there for the Kraken defensively after Carson Soucy left. Just to go over the guys who left now that we mentioned Soucy. Daniel Sprong is in Detroit. Ryan Donato's in Chicago. Morgan Geekie is in Boston, which is an interesting move, which is good. I mean, it's good for those players. I know that a lot of people are upset, and I understand that, and I'm going to give them space to be upset about those players moving on, right? But with the years that they had in the season that this Kraken team had, it's very fair for those players to go and get more money. It's totally fair for that to happen. So, keeping July 2nd. Okay, sorry. It looked like my internet was going down there for a minute. Ooh, very nice. The team signed forward Kyler Yamamoto to a 1-year deal at 1.5 million AAV. Yamamoto who's now 24 years old, totaled 25 points, 10 goals, and 15 assists in 58 regular season games with the Edmonton Oilers. His 6th season with Edmonton Forwards. He is excuse me, he played his junior hockey with the Spokane Chiefs, so he makes his return. I believe he now becomes the first Washington State-born player that the Kraken have signed. So that's very cool to see. And then earlier this morning, July 3rd, the team signed defenseman Connor Carrick to a 1-year, 2-way contract at $775,000 AAV. We'll see if we can get you some more information on Carrick, because I know this isn't exactly his first time with the organization. So he is 29. He tallied 1 assist in 1 game for the Bruins this past year, spending the remainder of their season with their AHL affiliate, the Providence Bruins. Sorry. See if they mention, because I know he's been here before. That's very weird. I could have sworn that he was here before. Connor Carrick. All right, I don't mean to just go and be like, Yes, on August 4th, 2021, Carricker signs a free agent to a one-year, two-way deal at 800,000 with the expansion team. After attending training camp, he was reassigned to the Charlotte Checkers of the AHL. I see. I see. There we go. I was like, I know I've seen his name before. So anyway, free agency is continuing. Development camp is continuing. That's underway right now. Our new writer Jason Fridge actually has a recap of day one of development camp up. So make sure to go to our website, which you can access in the the description of this video, and go to our articles tab to see that. But we'll be back on the 5th as the next few days of development camp are all closed door. So we'll be back on the 5th for that when the team has a scrimmage and a barbecue after at Kraken Community Iceplex. So come on down to KCI, whether that's down for you or up, and come and check that out because it's free. It's open to the public, and they're grilling afterwards. My friend Liv reminded me that barbecue isn't always necessarily what they're doing when someone says they're barbecuing. So we head over here to our OL Rain, who I am checked out. I turn, but I don't know if that has, I don't know if that'd be the most smart thing to do, because if we do that on camera, I don't know how much you can see it, right? But we're wearing the Olivia Vanderyacht jersey today. in in the home studio here. The Reign played 2 matches over the course of the past week, and those are both without their international players. So the Reign are looking to sort of balance things without their internationals. One of these matches being a Challenge Cup match, the other one being a regular season match. June 28th at the Portland Thorns, and a 1-0 win was a Challenge Cup match. Our player of the match, forward Elise Bennett, 1 goal. It was the game winner, and she previously in that match had a goal taken away due to a foul. I believe it was a foul in the build-up, or might have been an offsides. So that was taken away, which is unfortunate, but Bennett still continued to show great effort and great persistence, and was able to score the game winner on a great ball on a Reign set piece. So that was really nice, and it hands the Thorns their first home loss of the year, actually. So very nice, especially to do so. That the Reign were the ones that are able to do that, to go down there and do that, as well as another strong defensive effort. I don't I don't know if the Reign have conceded yet in the Challenge Cup, knock on wood again. But then even if they have, they've been very strong defensively in the Challenge Cup. And still now they further the lead in the Western Division of the Challenge Cup, now at 10 points, and I believe Portland's only got 3. So we look over here to the second match of the week, July 1st versus Racing Louisville FC, a 2-2 draw. Our player of the match, once again, is forward Elise Bennett, an 8.6 match rating, 1 goal, 1 assist, 1 shot, and 2 chances created. We go to our photo of the match here by Liv Lyons. As you can see the emotion. This is after the first goal. You can see Bennett excited. Was it after the first? No. Yes. No, I don't. I want to say it's after the second goal. I might lie. I apologize for lying to you, but Bennett had a great game. Um, she had sent in an excellent ball on the first goal that was scored by Veronica Latsko. An excellent ball. You know, they talk in baseball about a hit that's a frozen rope. That ball was a frozen rope, right to Latsko to score that header. The Reign are able to score these goals within 5 minutes of each other, both of them being in the final 10 minutes of the match after going down early. It was a physical match. It was a very physical match. Phoebe McLaren recorded a yellow card in the 3rd minute. It's her first match of the year, mind you. Laura Harvey in the postgame presser said, "That one loves a tackle, doesn't she?" Um, not wrong. Um, but it was physical. I believe in the 20th, around the 27th minute, I believe, just Fishlock would be given a yellow on a handball in the box, and Shuang Wang of Racing Louisville would convert it to put Louisville up going into the half. Coming out of the half, the Reign did look like the better club on the attack, at least. And it looked like things were going good. Things, there was progression in the build until a sort of bizarre occurrence took place when play was stopped for a seemingly a foul, no foul, that was called as the head official went up with her arm raised and a whistle in her mouth, but was calling a continuation. But all of the players on the pitch around stopped, and then the goal by Paige Monahan went right through Fallon Tullis-Joyce's gloves. So that was frustrating. Um, it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting to see that take place. So um, after that, though, the Reign were able to score. That was in the 67th minute, I believe. The Reign were able to score in the 82nd and 87th minute to tie this game up and give you a draw that really did feel like a win. And I don't like to necessarily look at draws like that. Like to have seen this a win, like to add 3 points, like to continue to climb up the NWSL table. But given the situation where you're dealing with not really any injury right now, but Fishlock was off the field for this after it was her first game back from injury for the last few weeks, and you're missing the most internationals of any team in the NWSL. To see that sort of resiliency and that sort of effort was great, and to see some spark from some of the women, the national team replacement players, even better. So, very happy with that result there. So the Reign sit at a 7-win, 4-loss, 3-draw record. They sit at third in the league table with 24 points. First in the Challenge Cup Western Division with 10 points. Looking ahead, their next matchup is July 7th at the Orlando Pride with a 4 p.m. Pacific time start time. That will be, I believe it's on Paramount Plus. I wrote that down. Paramount Plus, and if you've got Fox 13 Plus, you can watch that as well. We continue on over here to our Seawolves, who played in the Western Conference Final against the best team in MLR this year, at least, the San Diego Legion, on July 2nd, a 32-10 loss in the Western Conference Final. This was a tough one. It ends the Seawolves season after a largely really good season that they had. Started off really well, started off really hot. Lost to San Diego, lost to Utah, then was able to kind of hit a streak again. It was tough. I mean, San Diego's been arguably the best team in the league all year long, and to run into effectively the buzzsaw that they are, it is very tough, right? So frustrating, sure, that this took place, but it's not like this was one that was stolen from them, or it was a heartbreaker necessarily. San Diego looked strong throughout the course of the match, and anytime that it looked like Seawolves were really building any momentum, the Legion were able to come back and answer and ensure that momentum didn't build and didn't continue. So a tough one throughout for sure. A lot to be proud of with the Seawolves team, with a lot of different great efforts across, the younger players and the veteran players. Your captain was out for a bit and you were able to play without him. Inafuti had 2 hat tricks this year and showed some great dynamic ability. Excuse me. You added a bunch of players this past year due to some things around MLR. So it was very interesting to see that all take place. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, the Seawolves team was a lot of fun, and they looked like a serious contender just about all year long. It was always going to be tough to have to face San Diego in this one. But hey, hats off to them. I know this is a rivalry, but they've been a damn good team all year long. So a tough way to end the season for sure. But with the way that the Seawolves have been run and they've been able to turn out contenders in just about every year that they've existed in MLR, I don't doubt that they'll be back. So tough way to end it for sure, as we get to the end of the show now with our star of the week. And considering her play over the course of the 2 matches this past week, the 3 matches over the course of the past 8 days, or those 8 days, pardon me, 3 matches in 8 days. I can get it. I can speak English, I promise. Elise Bennett, forward, who the team acquired via trade from the Kansas City Current this past off season, around the draft. Someone's come in, Washington State alum, a great rookie for the Current last year, has really brought a nice physical edge for the Reign, had that excellent ball in. for the first goal against Racing Louisville, and then had the nice little flick above to get over Louisville keeper Katie Lund to score the equalizer in this one. Just showed a bunch of different great attributes in this match to score those 2 goals. Outside of her physical presence, because the Reign have some really good forwards on this roster, but they'll bring different things. And I'd say Bennett, is easily that physical forward that the club has. And for her to get that header to beat Portland in that Challenge Cup match, and to do so against Portland, gets her extra point. She's nominated as one of the is a potential player of the week in the NWSL. I think it would, I'm biased, of course. But I think it would make a ton of sense if it was her. We're going to check in on that poll right now and see where it's at, and encourage you to go. If you go into the @NWSL on Twitter, and you scroll down a bit because they've been tweeting a lot. Oh, goodness. Where to go? Yeah. Player. Nope. That's save of the week. Find player of the week. Guys, So Julie Doyle of Orlando currently leads with 30.4%, but Elise is right behind her with a 29.1%. So go and get your votes in. I did vote on my personal. We'll go and we'll retweet it on the Circling Seattle Sports account as well, just so it's easier to find. If you go to our Twitter, of course, you can then find it, but we'll go down and scroll for you. We'll do the digging here, which is unfortunate that I even have to do the digging. Here we go. Tweet that out there. Bada bing, bada boom. Well done. But just her effort, and she's going to be one of the more valuable players to have for the Reign. Well, everyone is. It's hard to look at just one and say she's the most valuable. But at least in the attack, it's going to be very important for her in that forward group to be able to score goals for this Reign team while they're missing so many valuable players to the World Cup. So with that being said, we can show those. With credit to the NWSL, of course, and Paramount Plus. So here's the first goal, and you're going to see the sort of ball that Bennett puts in.
Pumped downfield to Bennett. Lining up Malay. Bennett offering, deflected, and headed in! They've pulled one back with a long way to go. It's the 8th headed goal by the Reign this season.
Another headed goal. It's not a coincidence. It's a good ball into the box. And a really good finish from Latsko. Really good finish. Comes into the game and is...
Barnes offering. Stanton header down. Flicked it in! Bennett! From 2 goals down! Reign level!
You can see on the first goal the sort of ball that she had. Obviously, credit to CBS, Paramount Plus, and the NWSL. But the great ball by Bennett on the first goal, and then the sort of flick that she had to get over Katie Lund for the second one. So that's our player of the week. Until I see you next week on July the 10th. If you're choosing to celebrate tomorrow, be safe, be responsible, spend time with those that you love. Otherwise, enjoy the weather, be careful of the heat, hydrate yourself, take care, and do whatever you can to make today a great day. I'll see you all next week.